Aerospace research never called it a sleep technique. That word was too harmless. Instead, it was treated as a critical switch, only to be engaged when absolutely necessary to force the human nervous system into recovery amidst hostile environments like zero gravity, extreme stress, or mission-critical fatigue. Dangerously, this same biological switch exists within you, untaught, unused, almost deliberately ignored. You might think your sleep problem is simple: stress, screens, coffee, age. But that's the lie keeping you trapped. The real issue is your nervous system has forgotten how to descend. Your brain never fully powers down, hovering all night in shallow sleep, accumulating damage. Memory erosion, hormonal chaos, emotional instability. You wake tired not from too little sleep, but from never entering the zone where true repair occurs. Data shows denying deep REM recovery cannibalizes brain efficiency. Reaction time slows, fear centers stay overactive, and the body remains in survival mode, even in bed. This isn't insomnia. It's a nervous system stuck in orbit, unable to re-enter. What if re-entry doesn't require pills, supplements, or hours of meditation? What if the gate opens in under 2 minutes, not by calming the mind, but by hijacking the circuitry beneath thought itself? This is where breath becomes command, not just relaxation. You are about to learn why this works and why almost no one teaches it. Here's what should scare you. Every night, you fail to reach deep REM sleep. Your brain doesn't just miss rest, it accumulates neurological debt. Unlike financial debt, this compounds silently until something breaks. Unexplained anxiety, focus evaporating mid-sentence, uncontrollable emotional reactions. You assume it's life pressure. It's REM deprivation. REM sleep isn't optional recovery. It's the phase where the brain rewires itself, detoxifies emotional memory, and downgrades threat signals. Without it, your amygdala stays armed, cortisol elevated, and your nervous system behaves as if danger never passed. That's why, exhausted in a dark room, your heart won't slow, thoughts won't release, and your body refuses to stand down. The uncomfortable truth: most modern sleep aids worsen this. Alcohol fragments REM. Melatonin mistimes it, and sedatives chemically pause you without proper brain cycling. The next day, the debt is still there, heavier. NASA researchers faced this brutally. Astronauts slept, yet cognitive performance declined, emotional regulation degraded, and reaction errors increased. Fatal in space. They shifted from asking how to make people sleep longer to how to force genuine nervous system recovery when sleep itself is unstable. The answer wasn't pills, but physiology, understanding that REM isn't initiated by the brain feeling tired, but by the nervous system receiving a specific internal signal. Miss that signal, and exhaustion is futile. You've been chasing sleep the wrong way. Next, I'll show you this signal's origin and why ancient practitioners discovered it long before neuroscience. This is uncomfortable for modern science. NASA's signal didn't originate in a lab. It was symbolically mapped by ancient practitioners without modern tools, who consistently described the same doorway across cultures with the same warnings and results. Taoist monks spoke of sinking the breath below the heart to dissolve the waking spirit. Tibetan adepts described dropping the wind into the channel so dreams become clear and deep. Early yogic texts taught sleep wasn't entered by exhaustion, but by guiding breath to a precise depth and rhythm until the mind lost authority. Different languages, same mechanism. NASA researchers observed a disturbing overlap. Modern sleep data and ethnographic records showed deep recovery preceded by a sharp shift in autonomic control. Heart rate variability spiked, CO2 tolerance increased, and the vagus nerve took command. The brain wasn't relaxing into REM. It was escorted there. This forbidden overlap revealed ancient rituals used breath to signal safety, leading the brain to surrender vigilance. Space physiology required the same. Zero gravity triggers subconscious panic, causing shallow sleep. But astronauts using controlled respiratory patterns, mimicking ancient descent breathing, restored REM depth. This was neural leverage, not spirituality. Ancients called it entering the inner night. NASA, parasympathetic dominance under stress conditions. Same doorway, different excuses to ignore it. This technique stayed buried because understanding sleep is triggered, not begged for, collapses the consumer sleep industry. You need the correct signal, not just more time in bed. Next, I'll show you the exact biological switch breath flips and why the brain has no defense against it once activated. We go beneath belief, ritual, and words. The switch you'll understand responds only to signal, not thought. The most powerful signal the nervous system recognizes isn't willpower or relaxation. It's breath chemistry. The mechanism. Your brain doesn't decide deep sleep. It waits for body permission via the vagus nerve, the parasympathetic system's highway. Sharp vagal tone rise sends a non-negotiable message. Safe environment, energy conservation, repair can begin. Crucially, the vagus nerve isn't activated by slow breathing alone. Decisive activation requires precise CO2 tolerance change combined with elongated exhalation. CO2 is a sedative signal, not waste gas. Its safe, slight rise in blood tells the brainstem to downshift consciousness. This explains hyperventilation's anxiety and shallow breathing's alertness. The protocol works fast, bypassing the cortex entirely. No affirmations, no visualization, just chemistry. Upon signal reception, beta waves collapse, analytical chatter loses fuel. Theta activity dominates like at REM's edge. The hippocampus loosens its grip, sensory input fades. The body grows heavy not from tiredness but active muscle inhibition. This is forced descent. NASA data showed once this cascade begins, the brain cannot stop it without external stimulation. The nervous system commits fully. Astronauts using this protocol entered REM even in unstable cycles. You can trigger this transition in under 120 seconds if the signal is delivered cleanly. Next, I'll show lab confirmation and biological markers proving real recovery. When this mechanism was tested, researchers didn't ask, "Do you feel sleepy?" That was useless. They sought proof the nervous system crossed a one-way boundary, tracking markers now used for elite stress resilience and deep recovery. The first marker, a sudden spike in high-frequency heart rate variability, HRV, the signature of parasympathetic takeover. Within minutes of initiating the breath pattern, subjects showed a shift normally taking 40-60 minutes of natural sleep onset. This was the moment the body stopped negotiating, surrendering control to the vagus nerve. The second marker, CO2 tolerance. Blood oxygen stayed stable, but carbon dioxide rose just enough to trigger brainstem sedation. Critical. Oxygen calms muscles. CO2 calms the mind. When balanced, cortical activity loses dominance. EEG confirmed. Beta collapsed. Theta surged. Delta flickered, even while subjects were awake. The third marker, muscular inhibition. Microtension in the jaw, shoulders, and diaphragm dropped sharply. This is the same paralysis mechanism protecting the body during REM dreaming. Its appearance means the nervous system has committed to sleep architecture. Reversal becomes difficult without strong sensory input. NASA researchers recognized this pattern immediately. It was not relaxation. It was pre-sleep physiology activated on command. The body behaved as if given official clearance to power down. Here lies the danger. Once you know how to trigger these markers, you stop blaming yourself for poor sleep. You see the truth. Your body was never broken. It was simply never given the correct instructions. Next, I will give you the exact protocol itself. No theory, no metaphors, just the sequence that delivers the signal and forces the descent. This part isn't for casual sharing due to its precision. Small deviations weaken the signal. Large ones cancel it. You're not trying to fall asleep. You're commanding your nervous system. Follow exactly. Lie supine on your back, not side or stomach, to remove vestibular noise. Arms slightly away, palms down, jaw loose, tongue heavy on mouth floor. Eyes closed, not squeezed. Darkness aids, but isn't required. Inhale through the nose for a slow count of 4. Controlled, not deep. Chest mostly still. Belly gently expanding, signaling no action. Pause 2 seconds at inhale's peak. No clamping or straining. This critical pause allows CO2 to rise without alarm. Exhale through nose or lightly parted lips for 6 to 8 counts, always longer than inhale. This is the switch. Extended exhale drags the vagus nerve into dominance, shutting down cortical activity. Pause 2 seconds at exhale's bottom. Don't rush. This pause is the false end. The nervous system interprets as safety. Falling, letting go, no need to act. Repeat this cycle exactly 10 times. No more, no less. By the 5th, body feels heavier. By the 8th, thoughts fragment. Losing count by the 10th is success. Done correctly, you won't drift. You'll drop, as if waking consciousness gave way. Next, I'll warn about subtle mistakes that prevent this from working or worsen sleep. Most people fail due to small, seemingly harmless mistakes, which are dangerous because the nervous system doesn't forgive sloppy signals, reading inconsistency as threat. The first mistake, breathing too deeply. Excessive air flushes carbon dioxide instead of allowing it to rise. Oxygen goes up, but the mind stays alert. You feel calm, yet awake. Controlled vigilance, not dissent. If your chest lifts or shoulders move, you've weakened the command. The second mistake, shortening the exhale once the body feels heavy. This happens unconsciously. As control slips, the ego panics, tightening breath. The exhale becomes shallow. The pause disappears. The vagus nerve releases its grip, and the brain wakes itself back up. Discipline matters more at the end than the beginning. The third mistake, adding intention. Visualization, affirmations, mental effort. The moment you try to sleep, beta activity resurges. Remember, this protocol bypasses thought. The breath does the work. Your only job is to not interfere. There's also a timing error. Using this technique too early in the evening can backfire. If sleep pressure isn't present, the nervous system enters a dissociative calm instead of a REM descent. You feel relaxed, but sleep doesn't arrive. This isn't the protocol failing, it's being deployed at the wrong biological moment. These errors explain why many dismiss breath-based sleep methods as unreliable. They were never unreliable. They were simply misunderstood. In the next part, I will show you the transformation timeline, detailing changes after the first night, 3 days, and 1 week of correct use, measured by function, not just feeling. The first night is subtle, confirming its reality. You may not remember falling asleep or dreaming, but you'll notice the difference upon waking. Not excitement or energy, but quiet, stable clarity. This signifies deeper, not longer, REM cycles. Within 24 hours, emotional reactivity drops. Small stressors fail to hook you. This isn't mindset. It's amygdala recalibration. The brain finally completes the overnight threat reset it had been skipping for months, sometimes years. By the third night, measurable changes occur. Morning cortisol normalizes. You wake closer to a natural circadian rise. Memory recall sharpens precisely. Words come faster. Decisions feel cleaner. The nervous system is no longer running on emergency power. At 7 days, the change becomes structural. HRV baselines increase. Sleep latency shortens even without the protocol. This is critical. Your system relearns autonomous descent. The breath is no longer a crutch. It's a teacher. REM density increases, and more importantly, REM becomes stable. No more half-dreaming or surface sleep. This protocol is dangerous to the wrong people. Once your nervous system remembers this pathway, shallow sleep becomes intolerable. Alcohol disrupts it immediately. Late-night stimulation feels invasive. You cannot unlearn what deep recovery feels like. That is the real transformation. You stop negotiating with fatigue. You stop accepting exhaustion as normal. Your body now knows what true shutdown is supposed to feel like. In the next part, I will give you the warning that must come with this knowledge. Who should not use this technique, and when activating it can actually be harmful. Responsibility enters here. A switch this powerful doesn't belong in careless hands. Sometimes forcing nervous system descent is escape, not recovery. A distinction the body knows even if the mind doesn't. Do not use this protocol during the day unless prepared for cognitive shutdown. This isn't a relaxation exercise. It can impair reaction time, decision-making, and situational awareness for hours if sleep pressure is present. Using it before driving, training, or high-focus work is reckless. The nervous system will obey regardless of timing. Conditions demanding caution: untreated sleep apnea, severe respiratory disorders, or panic conditions linked to breath retention. This protocol must be approached carefully or not at all. The CO2 rise that calms a healthy nervous system can trigger alarm in systems already dysregulated. This is physiology, not fear. Another warning: do not combine this technique with alcohol or sedatives. You're stacking signals that suppress neural vigilance. The result isn't deeper sleep, but fragmented recovery and increased morning grogginess. You'll think it worked. Data will say otherwise. Finally, understand this. If you use this protocol nightly, without addressing chronic stress, late light exposure, or circadian disruption, its effectiveness will fade. Not because breath stops working, but because the body stops trusting shortcuts. This is a gateway, not a replacement for biological alignment. In the final part, I will issue the challenge, a direct test to prove, in your own nervous system, whether this knowledge changes anything at all. Here is the challenge, deliberately simple to prevent ego's hiding places. For the next 7 nights, use the protocol exactly once, only when you are ready to sleep. Lights low, screens off. No negotiations, no backup methods. Night 1 is observation. Do not judge or expect miracles. Notice how quickly thought fragments and how the body responds to the final exhale. If sleep arrives, let it take you. If not, stop after 10 cycles and allow the nervous system to settle without interference. Nights 2 through 4 are calibration. The breath becomes smoother. The pauses feel natural instead of forced. You will begin to recognize the precise moment the switch flips. That moment is the proof, consistent every time. Heavy limbs, fading internal dialogue, a sense of dropping backward. Nights 5 through 7 are reinforcement. Sleep latency shortens. You may fall asleep before completing the 10th cycle. This isn't a mistake. It means the nervous system no longer needs instruction. It recognizes the signal. At the end of 7 nights, ask yourself one question and answer honestly. Do you wake up restored or merely conscious? If restored, You now know something you cannot unknow. Sleep is not a mystery. It is a command sequence. Most people will hear this and do nothing. A few will try it once and quit. A very small number will realize the greatest recovery tool they were ever denied was their own breath, used correctly at the right moment. This is where I stop teaching and you start proving it to yourself.